You did what? The High Counselor's voice echoed through the crystalline chamber, causing several of the more delicate formations to vibrate in sympathy. The effect would have been quite beautiful if everyone present wasn't too busy being absolutely terrified. Ambassador Zixtal shifted uncomfortably on his gravitic cushion, his chromatophores cycling through various shades of embarrassed purple. That is to say, the Border Patrol, they may have slightly terminated a human vessel. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the usual background hum of the Galactic Council's environmental systems seemed to hold its breath. Define slightly terminated, the High Counselor said with the kind of calm that preceded supernovas. Well, Zixtal's tendrils writhed nervously. The patrol detected an unauthorized craft entering Concordat space. Following standard protocol, they issued 3 warnings. When the vessel failed to respond, they dispatched it, with extreme prejudice, and possibly several antimatter torpedoes. And you're certain it was human? The debris analysis was quite conclusive. The High Counselor's primary eyes closed while their secondary set stared unblinkingly at Zixtal. Ambassador, are you familiar with human history? I've reviewed the standard briefing package. The standard briefing package? The High Counselor's bioluminescence flared. Did you perhaps skip the section titled, Why We Don't Fuck With Humans? A nervous titter ran through the assembled representatives. It wasn't often one heard the High Counselor use human profanity. I may have skimmed that part, Zixtal admitted. Then allow me to educate you. The High Counselor activated their neural interface, projecting a series of historical images into the shared consciousness space. Humans are a species that turned their own planet's deadliest predator into a companion animal because they thought it was cute. They invented powered flight, and less than 70 years later were walking on their moon. Not because they needed to, but because someone said they couldn't. The projections shifted to show various human conflicts throughout history. They fought wars against themselves that make our worst conflicts look like diplomatic disagreements. And every time they emerged stronger, more unified, and with increasingly creative ways to break physics. Do you know what they did when they discovered our existence? Zixtal's chromatophores had settled into a sickly greenish-gray. They joined the Galactic Concordat? No. First they threw a party. Then they immediately started figuring out how to improve our technology. Within a decade, they had enhanced our FTL drives by 300%, by applying something they called NASCAR principles, which apparently involves turning left very fast and drinking something called beer. The High Counselor's display shifted to show the human diplomatic corps. They're the only species that managed to negotiate better trade terms by accidentally starting 3 bar fights and ending them with group singing. Their diplomat actually got the Vkr'lak to laugh. The Vkr'lak, a species whose language doesn't even have a word for humor. But surely one small incident. Small? The High Counselor's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than their earlier shouts. Let me tell you what happened the last time someone killed a human. The Drachnid Empire, you remember them? The species that controlled half the Carina arm? Precisely. They killed exactly 1 human explorer, just 1. Would you like to know what happened next? Zixtal's chromatophores had gone completely white. I would prefer not to. Too bad. You're going to learn. The High Counselor's projection changed to show a massive fleet of ships. The humans didn't declare war. They didn't even make threats. They just released a statement saying, "Hold my beer," which we now know is the human equivalent of a death warrant, and proceeded to systematically dismantle the entire Drachnid civilization. But how? The Drachnid were technologically superior in every way. Were they? The humans took one look at Drachnid shield technology and figured out you could bypass it completely by hitting it with a specific frequency of dubstep music. They turned faster-than-light physics into a weapon by weaponizing something called drift racing. They defeated the Drachnid's most advanced AI by showing it pictures of cats until it became too confused to function. The High Counselor's display showed the aftermath. The once mighty Drachnid reduced to a single solar system, their former empire now largely occupied by human pizza restaurants and something called mini-golf courses. And do you know the worst part? The humans considered it funny. They turned the whole campaign into something called memes. There are still human children who can defeat military-grade encryptions by typing uwu at them, and no one knows why it works. The chamber had gone so quiet you could hear the quantum fluctuations in the vacuum. So, the High Counselor continued, their voice dangerously soft. "Would you like to know what message we just received from Earth regarding your little incident?" Zixtal's entire body had begun to tremble. "Please, no!" The High Counselor activated one final projection. A simple text message floated in the air. "Dear Galactic Concordat, we noticed you accidentally blew up one of our ships." "No worries. We totally get it. Space is big, mistakes happen. Tell you what, why don't we send a diplomatic team over to discuss this over coffee? We've got some fun ideas about improving your weapons systems anyway. Did you know you can increase torpedo yield by 500% by adding what we call rainbow glitter? Looking forward to a productive discussion. P.S. You guys ever heard of something called TikTok? We think you're gonna love it. Best regards, humanity." The color drained from every being in the chamber. "They're being nice about it," the High Counselor whispered in horror. "That's how you know we're doomed." 3 days later, the human diplomatic team arrived. They brought coffee, donuts, and detailed plans for something they called a base-boosted quantum torpedo. The Concordat's military engineers took one look at the designs and had to be treated for existential crisis. Within a week, human culture consultants had begun helping with Concordat security systems. They insisted on installing something called RGB lighting on all military vessels, claiming it would make them go faster. The terrifying part was that it actually worked. A month after that, the first Concordat TikTok influencer went viral with a dance move that accidentally contained the encryption codes for the entire defense network. Humanity called it totally poggers and sent a gift basket. In the end, the Concordat didn't fall to human vengeance. They fell to human friendship, which somehow proved far more devastating. A year later, the Galactic Concordat had been peacefully absorbed into what humans called the Vibe, a state of existence that no other species quite understood but somehow couldn't resist. Zixtal, ironically, became a successful streamer, known for his reaction videos to human historical documents called cat videos. He still didn't understand them, but his confused screaming proved very popular with human audiences. The High Counselor, meanwhile, had taken up something called DJing and was last seen dropping sick beats at a club on Alpha Centauri, their bioluminescence synchronized to something called EDM. As for the Border Patrol that started it all, they were sentenced to the cruelest punishment humanity could devise. They were made to watch all 21 seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Their descendants still twitch at the phrase, "Oh my God," like literally. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the galaxy, the ghost of that first destroyed human vessel was probably laughing its ethereal ass off. Because in the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, their creativity, or even their capacity for violence. It was their ability to turn any conflict into a party, any enemy into a friend, and any crisis into a trending hashtag. The Galactic Concordat learned what so many others had learned before them. You don't win against humanity. You either join their chaos, or you get caught in their gravitational meme field and become part of it anyway. As a wise human once said, resistance is futile, but the after-party is lit. And that, kids, is why every species in the galaxy now ends their official communications with uwu, and why the universal greeting across 12,000 light-years of space is no longer peace be with you, but it's ya boy. The universe, as it turns out, never stood a chance against humanity's greatest power. Their ability to make everything, including their own defeat, into an absolute vibe. Somewhere in the cosmic background radiation, scientists swear you can still hear the echoes of the first human response to alien contact. LOL, hold my beer. The galaxy has never been the same. And honestly, it's way more fun this way. Yo, what's poppin', Supreme Galactic Council? It's your boy, Ambassador Thompson, coming at you live from Earth. The collected representatives of 12,000 species collectively cringed at the traditional human greeting. Not because they disliked it. After 2 years of human cultural integration, they'd developed a disturbing fondness for such phrases. But because Ambassador Thompson's enthusiasm usually preceded something that would give their physics department severe migraines. We've been thinking, Thompson continued, idly spinning in his hover chair, which humans had modified to do sick barrel rolls. Your galactic transportation system is kinda mid. The High Counselor, their bioluminescent patterns now permanently set to pulse in rhythm with something called lo-fi beats to relax study too, felt a familiar sense of dread. Mid was human speak for, about to be aggressively improved whether you want it or not. Like, we get it, Thompson gestured expansively, nearly knocking over a quantum stabilizer with his grande caramel frappuccino. Wormholes are cool and all, but have you considered yeet physics? Several of the more traditional council members had to be restrained from attempting ritual suicide. Ambassador, the High Counselor managed, their chromatophores displaying a new pattern that humans had dubbed anxiety aesthetic. Please tell me yeet physics isn't what it sounds like. Oh, it's exactly what it sounds like. Thompson beamed. See? We figured out you can actually throw a spacecraft through hyperspace if you just believe hard enough and scream yeet at precisely the right frequency. Our scientists call it the vibe-particle interaction theory, but basically, it runs on pure chaos energy. That's not possible, stammered the head of the Concordate Science Division. You can't just throw ships through space-time. Bet, Thompson replied with what humans called a shit-eating grin. Check this out. He pulled up a holographic display showing a small research vessel. As the council watched in horror and fascination, the ship's human crew seemed to be having a party. There was music, dancing, and someone was doing something called a keg stand in the engine room. Then, at peak chaos levels, every crew member simultaneously screamed, "Yeet!" And the ship, well, the only way to describe it was that the vessel literally threw itself through the fabric of space-time, leaving behind a trail of rainbow sparkles and what appeared to be emoji confetti. It emerged 2 galaxies over, setting a new speed record and somehow creating 3 new forms of dance music in the process. But the energy requirements... The science division head was openly weeping now. The quantum calculations, the probabilistic matrices... Oh yeah, about that. Thompson took a sip of his frappuccino. Turns out if you don't believe in probability, it can't hurt you. We call it main character energy. Works every time, 60% of the time. The High Counselor had seen enough. Ambassador, while we appreciate humanity's unique contributions to galactic society, perhaps we should focus on more pressing matters. Like the fact that 3 of our core worlds have somehow become addicted to something called cat videos? First of all, that's totally poggers. Thompson nodded sagely. Second, wait until you hear about our plans for the galactic internet. We're thinking of calling it Space Twitter. The collective psychic scream of 12,000 species was heard clear across the local group. But resistance, as always, proved futile. Within months, the new human-designed transportation system was implemented across the galaxy. Ships were now painted with racing stripes, for extra speed, equipped with subwoofers, to vibe with the cosmic background radiation, and required all crew members to take mandatory hype classes to maintain proper yeet velocity. The really disturbing part? It worked better than any previous system. Travel times were cut by 90%, safety increased by 400%, and somehow ships arrived at their destinations with their crews having gained verified social media followers. The science division eventually gave up trying to explain it, and instead published a paper titled The Power of Vibing, a quantum analysis of just going with it. It won 3 Nobel Prizes and a Teen Choice Award. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, that first destroyed human vessel had become something of a legend. Some say if you listen carefully, you can hear its ghost still laughing, now with a significantly larger social media following than most living beings. As for Ambassador Thompson, he went on to revolutionize galactic diplomacy by introducing something called roast battles to replace traditional negotiations. Peace across the cosmos reached unprecedented levels, if only because everyone was too busy trying to think of sick burns to actually fight. The High Counselor eventually embraced the chaos, released a platinum-selling space dubstep album, and became known across the galaxy as DJ High Council. Their signature song, UWU, Fiat, the Quantum Harmonics, became the new universal anthem. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space-time, probability itself had to admit that humans had a point. Sometimes you really do just need to yeet yourself through the universe and see what happens. The galaxy continued to spin, now with slightly more swagger, eternally vibrating to the rhythm of humanity's cosmic party playlist. As they say in the modern Galactic Concordat, it really do be like that sometimes. And it really, really do. The Galactic Security Council's emergency meeting was interrupted by what could only be described as a sick beat drop. "Sorry, my bad," called out General Martinez of the Human Space Force, adjusting something on her quantum-enhanced AirPods Pro Max Plus Ultra, now with more quantum. "Just testing out our new defense system. We call it the BEA-TUS, Base Enhanced Assault Tactical System." The Security Council's Chief of Defense, a highly evolved crystalline being named Xtal-7, though humans had nicknamed them Crystal Bay, vibrated concernedly. "General, please tell me you haven't actually weaponized music." "Weaponized?" Martinez looked offended. Nah, we just figured out that if you play the right combination of dubstep, K-pop, and something we call sea shanties, you can actually create localized time dilation fields. The enemy literally cannot keep up with the beat, and therefore cannot keep up with linear time. That's... Xtal-7 paused, their crystalline structure resonating with confusion. That's not how time works. It is now! Martinez grinned. Watch this. She pressed play on what appeared to be a heavily modified iPad, complete with RGB lighting and several unauthorized stickers. Immediately, a mix of Sandstorm by Darude, BTS's Dynamite, and Wellerman began playing across the quantum communications network. 3 Concordat battlecruisers in the test zone began to... dance? Their massive hulls swaying in perfect synchronization to the beat, leaving trails of rainbow quantum exhaust that spelled out vibing in 12-dimensional space. See, Martinez beamed proudly. The ships are now experiencing what we call party time, which moves approximately 420% faster than regular time. Plus, it looks totally aesthetic. But the mathematical implications... Xtal-7 was starting to develop stress fractures. The causality violations. Oh yeah, causality filed a complaint, Martinez shrugged. But we just invited it to the after-party and now we're cool. Turns out the laws of physics are way more chill if you just take them out for drinks occasionally. The Security Council watched in helpless fascination as the demonstration continued. The dancing battlecruisers had somehow formed a conga line through the 4th dimension, and their crews were reporting unprecedented levels of both combat readiness and good vibes. And check this out, Martinez continued, tapping her iPad. If we add a little Taylor Swift... The fabric of space-time shimmered, sparkled, and briefly transformed into what appeared to be a cosmic dance floor, complete with a rotating disco ball that may or may not have been a repurposed neutron star. General, the High Counselor intervened, their bioluminescence now synced to lo-fi beats to defend the galaxy to. Are you suggesting we replace our entire defense doctrine with a playlist? Not the entire doctrine, Martinez clarified. Just the boring parts. Besides, we've already upgraded your quantum torpedoes to fire in rhythm with Through the Fire and Flames on expert mode. Increases accuracy by 600% and looks rad as hell. A junior council member raised a tentative appendage. But what about the enemy? Won't they adapt? Martinez's grin widened. That's the best part. We leaked our defense plans on Space Twitter last week. Know what happened? Every major potential hostile force is too busy trying to perfect their TikTok dance moves to even think about war. We've achieved peace through synchronized vibing. The Security Council had to admit, it was hard to argue with results. Galactic conflict was at an all-time low, though incidents of spontaneous dance parties had increased by several thousand%. Even the notoriously warlike Kzketh had traded their plasma cannons for electric guitars, though they still hadn't quite grasped that you're supposed to play them, not eat them. And that's not even the coolest part, Martinez added, pulling up another holographic display. Wait until you see what happens when we combine our BEATS system with something we call vaporwave aesthetics. We can literally make enemy ships too nostalgic to fight. As if on cue, a test ship in the demonstration zone was suddenly engulfed in pink and purple neon lights, its hull transforming to display ancient human symbols like Windows 95 and Lisa Frank. Its crew immediately reported feeling mad chillax and an inexplicable desire to watch something called VHS tapes. The High Counselor sighed deeply. It was becoming clear that resistance wasn't just futile, it was totally uncool. Very well, General, they conceded. Implement your BE8 system. But please, for the love of all that's quantum, stop trying to teach the black holes to breakdance. No promises, Martinez winked. Besides, you should see what happens when a supermassive black hole hits the WO. Talk about a gravitational wave. And so, the galaxy's defense forces underwent their most radical transformation yet. Battle formations were replaced with choreography. Strategic planning meetings now required a DJ. The traditional war cry was officially changed to, "Let's go!" Even the mysterious ancient precursor races, long dormant in their crypts of eternal slumber, were reported to be low-key vibing to the new cosmic rhythm. The ghost of that first destroyed human vessel had apparently become a popular DJ itself, its spectral performances selling out venues across 13 dimensions. Critics called its style hauntingly bass-heavy and literally transcendent. As for General Martinez, she went on to win the Nobel Prize in Physics for her paper, Quantum harmonics and the art of the sick drop, a mathematical analysis of getting turnt in higher dimensions. The ceremony was, of course, a rave. The universe, it seemed, had finally found its rhythm. And it was, as the humans would say, absolutely bussin'. In the words of the now famous Galactic Defense Doctrine, Section 420, Paragraph 69. If the vibe is right, you can't lose the fight. Words to defend the galaxy by. Excerpt from the award-winning Galactic documentary series, How Humans Made Everything Weird. Narrator. In the year 2157 by Earth reckoning, the galaxy faced its most peculiar crisis yet, the Great Meme War. Our documentary team has compiled footage and interviews from this pivotal moment in galactic history. Cut to interview with Dr. Kurz, xenoanthropologist. Dr. Kurz T. Mandibles clicking nervously. It all started when humanity introduced something called reaction memes to the Galactic Council's official communications channels. Within weeks, entire diplomatic exchanges were being conducted solely through something called SpongeBob screenshots. Archive footage shows a tense trade negotiation being resolved entirely through carefully selected "this is fine" dog memes. Narrator. The situation escalated when the hive mind collective of Sector 7 attempted to assert dominance through what they thought was an aggressive display of power. Cut to Supreme Overmind X227, telepathically. We thought we were being intimidating. We sent them the image of 1,000 burning worlds. They responded with something called Uno reverse card, and no you. Our entire collective consciousness crashed for 3 standard cycles trying to process the implications. Footage shows the aftermath. The hive mind collective accidentally became a distributed meme-generating network, producing content that humans called surprisingly based. Narrator. But the true turning point came during the Vkr'lak diplomatic crisis. Cut to Ambassador Thompson, now sporting a holographic Supreme Dad hat. Thompson. So like the Vkr'lakians were threatening to invoke ancient combat rights, right? Real serious business. But then one of our interns just hit him with the trade offer meme. You know, I receive peace and cooperation. You receive funny cat videos and garlic bread recipes. Boom. Crisis averted. Historical footage shows the Vkr'lakian High Command unable to maintain their warrior stoicism after being exposed to something called Doge. Dr. Kurz E.T. The truly fascinating part was how quickly it spread. Species that had been mortal enemies for millennia were suddenly communicating through what humans called shitposting. The Vkr'lak and the Marathi ended their ancient blood feud after both sides became obsessed with something called Rick-rolling. Security footage shows the first documented case of an entire star system being Rick-rolled, resulting in spontaneous peace treaties. Narrator. The phenomenon reached its peak during the infamous Reddit incident. Cut to High Counselor, who now sports a Stonks t-shirt under their ceremonial robes. High Counselor. They introduced us to something called R-dank memes. 3 days later, the entire council was arguing about whether it was pronounced GIF or GIF. A week after that, we had reorganized the entire galactic economy based on something called karma farming. Economic charts show an unprecedented boom in the meme economy, with rare pepes becoming a recognized form of currency in 16 star clusters. Thompson. The best part? The ghost of that first human ship we lost? It started its own OnlyFans. Don't ask me how. We're still trying to figure that one out. But it's making bank. Narrator. Perhaps most remarkably, the meme wars led to the development of an entirely new form of faster-than-light communication. Cut to Dr. Liam O'Connor, quantum memetics specialist. Dr. O'Connor. Turns out, memes travel faster than light because they operate on what we call comedy quantum mechanics. The funnier the meme, the more it violates the laws of physics. We can now send messages across the galaxy instantly by encoding them in increasingly absurd variations of loss. Footage shows the first successful faster-than-light transmission, a deep-fried meme that somehow arrived at its destination 3 days before it was sent. Dr. Kurz T. We had to establish the Department of Memetic Warfare just to keep up. Do you know how hard it is to explain to a hive mind that E is funny specifically because it isn't funny? I have 3 PhDs and I still don't understand it. Narrator. By the time the dust settled, the galaxy had been fundamentally transformed. Ancient texts were being translated into LOL cat speak. The galactic archives were reorganized by vibe check scores. Even the mysterious precursor artifacts were being rated on their meme potential. Final montage shows various alien species attempting to recreate human meme formats, with varying degrees of success. High Counselor. In the end, we had to admit that humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They conquered the galaxy not through force, but through what they called top-tier shitposting. The scary part is, I think that was their plan all along. Cut to Thompson, nodding sagely. Thompson. All warfare is based on deception, but all diplomacy is based on who has the dankest memes. Sun Tzu said that. Probably. Narrator. And so, the galaxy entered a new age, one of peace, prosperity, and increasingly incomprehensible inside jokes. The meme wars had no losers, only varying degrees of what humans called Big Chungus energy. End documentary footage. Post-credits scene shows the ghost ship, now a successful content creator, teaching a black hole how to do a TikTok dance. The Emergency Galactic Council meeting was called at 3 a.m. Earth Standard Time, which, in retrospect, was their first mistake. Nothing good ever comes from humans at 3 a.m. So, began Council Member Zix, their antennae twitching nervously. Would anyone like to explain why the Galactic Information Network is currently flooded with something called space doggos? Ambassador Thompson, attending via hologram while clearly wearing pajama pants below his formal diplomatic jacket, sipped his energy drink. Oh yeah, humans found out your species identification database was basically like space Wikipedia. So naturally we had to add pictures of our pets. Your pets? Zix pulled up a holographic display showing the database. Where once there had been careful scientific classifications of species across the galaxy, there were now countless images of Earth canines in spacesuits, all labeled with descriptions like, "Heckin' good void pupper," and 1210 would boop that snoot. But this is a scientific database, protested the chief archivist, their tentacles curling in distress. It's meant to contain critical information about species characteristics. Yeah, and what's more critical than knowing which aliens are good boys? Thompson countered. Besides, have you seen your engagement metrics since we started adding dog photos? Up 4,000%. It was true. The once dusty digital archives were now the most visited sites on the Galactic Information Network. Somehow, Earth's dogs had become more popular across the cosmos than most sentient species. But that wasn't even the worst part. Perhaps we should discuss, the High Counselor interjected, their bioluminescence patterns suggesting severe acid reflux, the situation with what humans call influencers. Thompson brightened. Oh yeah. Isn't it great how Cosmic Kitten 42 got the Vraxian Empire to change their entire economic system? By posting what she called a throwing shade video. Hey, you have to admit, their resource distribution algorithms were totally cringe. Now they're much more based. The council collectively shuddered. They were starting to use human internet slang unconsciously, a sure sign of terminal mimetic infection. And then there's the matter of space Instagram, continued the High Counselor, particularly the trend of what you call food pics. Listen, Thompson held up a defensive hand. How are we supposed to know that posting pictures of our lunch would cause 3 different species to completely revolutionize their culinary sciences? The Hive Mind Collective didn't even have a concept of brunch before we showed up. Now they can't get enough of avocado toast. The Hive Mind's latest directive was, felt cute, might delete consciousness later, Zix noted dryly. Exactly, they're vibing. The council chamber's holographic displays were suddenly flooded with notifications as something new went viral across the network. Oh no, the chief archivist's color shifted to pale horror. The ghost of that human ship. It started a cooking channel. Indeed, the spectral vessel had somehow begun producing what it called, throwing together a quick fusion dish with ingredients from only 5,000 light-years away. Its first video, Easy 30-minute quantum carbonara, had already caused several physics laboratories to explode in confusion. But how is it cooking? Demanded Zix. It's a ghost! Better question, Thompson grinned. Why are its recipes actually working? The Zekaskali tried its simple antimatter Alfredo, and somehow it became their new national dish. The council was interrupted by another surge of notifications. The ghost ship had apparently started a collaboration with a black hole food critic. Their first review show, Event Horizon Kitchen Nightmares, was breaking all known laws of physics and getting rave reviews across 13 dimensions. "This has to stop," the High Counselor declared, though their terminal was clearly open to 10 easy space ramen recipes that will change your life. "Oh, wait till you see what happens when we introduce you to something called YouTube Shorts." Thompson's grin turned mischievous. "Ever wondered what a quantum physics experiment looks like in vertical video format with trendy background music?" The chief scientist, who had been quietly doom-scrolling in the corner, suddenly looked up in horror. "You wouldn't. With emotional text overlays," Thompson added with demonic glee. "What about the precursor archives?" the chief archivist asked desperately. "Surely those remain untainted." "Funny you should mention that." Thompson pulled up another holographic window. "Turns out those ancient alien hieroglyphs, if you play them at 1.5x speed with a bass boost, they're actually fire beats. Some kid from Earth turned them into a remix that's topping the charts in the Andromeda galaxy." The ancient warnings about the heat death of the universe were now, apparently, a sick EDM track called Heat Death Drop, Feat. MC Ancient One. As if to demonstrate, the Ghost Ship's cooking channel suddenly started a live stream collaboration with the remixed precursor warnings. Cooking with the End of All Things became an instant hit, somehow teaching viewers how to make both cosmic devastation predictions and a perfect soufflé. "Face it," Thompson leaned back in his holographic chair. "The galaxy needed a social media makeover. We just provided the content creators." The council knew he was right. The Galactic Information Network had never been more vibrant, more engaged, or more thoroughly stuffed with pictures of what humans called chunky space cats. Even now, a notification popped up showing that the Vkr'lak, once the most feared warriors in the galaxy, had started a successful ASMR channel featuring relaxing sounds of stellar conquest, 10 hours, no ads. The High Counselor sighed deeply and pulled up their own personal feed. "I suppose I should follow back that black hole food critic. Their take on quantum cuisine is surprisingly insightful." "That's the spirit," Thompson beamed. "Now, who's ready to hear about something called space podcasts?" The collective groan of the council was drowned out by the sound of 1,000,000 content creators simultaneously hitting their like and subscribe buttons across the cosmos. The galaxy would never be the same. But at least now it had better food pics. The end.